A hearty shepherd's pie, usually done with beef mince or lamb mince, but why not try it with some Aussie mushrooms? They are the meat of the vegetable world, full of flavour, full of nutrients, and I'm going to show you my version using some leeks, and of course you can't have a shepherd's pie without lashings of mashed potato on top. So I've got a really large saute pan. I like to cook the base of the shepherd's pie in a big saute pan so the mushrooms do cook evenly. So a good glug of olive oil to start with, and also a knob of butter, about 25 grams of butter. And we're just going to start melting that. Now, this is not a deep coloured shepherd's pie. I want it to be quite light in colour, so you don't have to worry about frying the leeks until they're golden. We just want to sweat them off so they become super sweet. So that's one whole leek that I've finely chopped. That can go in while the butter is melting, and just coat those lovely leeks in the butter and just let them start sweating. I'll also add a pinch of salt, and we'll just let that cook. 2 cloves of garlic. I'm going to bruise the garlic and roughly chop it. And because all these vegetables are going to be sweating off, you don't have to worry about cutting this super fine. They will turn really sweet too as they cook slowly in that butter. So roughly chop that. In it goes. Right, while that's sweating off, let's get on to the mushrooms. I have a combination of button mushrooms and field mushrooms. Same variety, just the field mushroom has been growing for a little longer, which means it has a bigger, bolder flavour. And I want this for a shepherd's pie, so we really taste the earthiness of the mushrooms. So what I do with the mushrooms is just brush them, even just with a damp towel. You don't want to be washing them in water because they're like sponges. So the bigger mushrooms, I'm just going to cut into smaller pieces, and you can see that these are super fresh Aussie mushrooms and those gills are not bruised at all. I love mushrooms. They're one of my favourite vegetables of all time. Also because they're so versatile, and because they're like sponges, they take on loads of flavour. So roughly chopping again, this is going to cook down. It looks like quite a lot, but as this hits the pan, they'll shrink significantly. All right, we have a mountain of mushrooms, so they can go into our pan with our leeks. Look at these leeks. See how soft and tender they are. Fantastic. I love the subtle flavour of leeks. And in with our mushrooms. Okay, and you can see why you need a large pan for this because they take up so much space at the beginning. And we're going to coat them. And if you like, you could add just another splash of olive oil, just to get them going, and also salt. They need salt to really accentuate their flavour. Coat them in the leeks and just cook them for a moment. Now while they cook down, a little stock, so I've got about 500 mils of water, warm water to 1 teaspoon of vegetable stock. And this has also got some seasoning and salt in it, so just balance the seasoning. Now, my recipe will call for about 250 mils of stock, but I always like to make a little extra just in case I want it to be a little saucier. So we'll keep that in mind as we start making this sauce. Okay, that smells sensational. One thing I haven't added is some pepper, loads of cracked pepper, and also some thyme, just a few sprigs of thyme. I'm just going to pick the leaves off so I don't have to worry about taking the stalks out later on. Mushrooms, love butter, garlic, thyme. So all of these flavours just work so nicely together, hence why I'm using them. To thicken up this sauce, some flour. So plain flour, I'll just rain in. And whenever you're using flour like this in a savoury dish, you need to cook it off. So we don't want that raw flavour in our shepherd's pie. So just cook that off for a moment, coating all the mushrooms, and you'll see it automatically thicken up. And once you hear a bit of a sizzle, we'll start with some white wine, pour that in, and you'll see how that's starting to make a little thick sauce. That's looking great. And once we get that rapid boil, we can start adding our stock. So start with a little bit, incorporate it, let it bubble away, add a little more. And now I'm just going to let this cook away for about 10 minutes. The mushrooms, they cook so quickly. We just want to thicken up that sauce. In the meantime, I'll get our mash ready, lashings of mash for this. So I'm going to add some cheese to it, eggs, and of course some milk. Okay, we're almost ready to start assembling. Mash is ready. I did add those egg yolks when the mash wasn't too hot. That's going to stabilise that mash and set it on top. It also gives it a lovely rich flavour. And absolutely don't need to do this, but I've placed mine into a piping bag just so I can easily pipe it on top before it goes into the oven. So in a baking dish, we're going to add our mushrooms. One last ingredient though, to give this an extra savoury flavour, some Dijon mustard. I love Dijon mustard with mushrooms. So we'll just mix that through. And again, I just like to add it right at the end here, just so we don't overcook the flavour, so we do taste it in our mushroom base. Look at that, so good. All right, we're going to pour that in. And I'm just using a spatula just to make sure we don't leave any of that lovely mushroom stew. Okay, spread that out. And now for our mashed potato, just use some scissors just to cut the base of it. All right, and then we'll start on one side and we're just going to pipe. You can do whatever you like. I'm not going to make it look too perfect. If you wanted to, you could sort of do like teardrop effect by just dolloping. There's so many different ways you can do it. This way I think is just the most effective. And if you've got some leftover mash, do not waste it. We're going to fill this up. All right. Last thing, loads of Parmesan, big block of Parmesan, and just let it rain Parmesan over the top. Now everything here is cooked, so we just want to caramelise the top and warm everything up. So a hot oven, 200 degrees, and this is going to cook for about 20 to 30 minutes or until it's bubbly and golden. That right there is a gorgeous shepherd's pie made with mushrooms. Let's have a look at this. Ooh, piping hot. Oh, look at that. A perfect amount of mushrooms to mashed potatoes. Place that onto the plate. Get some more mushies out. And you can serve this with a simple salad, maybe some steamed greens like some Brussels sprouts and some beans. Even just some peas would be nice. Or if you don't feel like your greens, maybe just a garnish of parsley on the side. And that right there is an absolute knockout vegetarian dinner, not just for vegetarians. Everyone is going to love this. I'm gonna have a taste. Honestly, it is so delicious.